How's it going? Such a nice opportunity now to welcome you all to the 4th annual Ryan Research Symposium. And we are glad to have you here tonight, and I'd like to turn the floor over for a few opening remarks from Dr. Scott Miller, President of the University.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you as we gather to celebrate one of the most meaningful academic traditions of the Jane P. Batten Honors College. I'd like to thank Dr. Travis Malone. He now has the longest title on campus. He is the Ann B. Schumedine Dean of the Jane P. Batten Honors College. Whew. That's a lot to fit on a name tag. I'd like to thank Travis for his leadership along with our committee of guest judges who had the difficult task of selecting 3 outstanding finalists, and our innovative students whose work made that task so challenging. I'd also like to recognize senior staff and special guests who are here with us this evening. First in the back, Dr. Keith Moore, Senior Vice President. Kelly Cordova, Chief of Staff, Vice President for Strategic Initiatives. John Grew, Vice President for Finance. Heather Campbell, Vice President for Enrollment and Student Success. And Soraya Bartol, the Kenneth R. Perry Dean of the Joan P. Brock School of Mathematics and Natural Sciences. Also joining us tonight are Board Chair Nancy DeFord, Board Secretary and alumnus Mavis McKinley. This evening represents more than a presentation of research. It reflects a shared commitment to education, leadership, and service. The Batten Honors College was born from Jane Batten's extraordinary vision and generosity. She imagined more than a program for high-achieving students. She envisioned a community that would challenge those students to think deeply, act ethically, and engage meaningfully with the world around them. Her belief in education as a force for good continues to guide this work and to inspire our students. We're proud to see that the vision realized every day. Our Batten scholars are curious, disciplined, and purpose-driven. They're not only asking important questions, but they're also working toward meaningful solutions to the complex challenges facing our communities and our environment. Because of this, we're especially grateful to Louis and Prudence Ryan for their commitment to both education and environmental stewardship. Through their generosity, the Ryan Environmental Research Symposium and Prize provides our students with a unique opportunity to advance their research, share their work publicly, and compete for recognition in an area that reflects both their values and ours. Louis's been a dedicated member of the Board of Trustees since 2007, and he and Prudence have long supported initiatives that strengthen both education and environmental responsibility. The Batten Honors College represents the intersection of those commitments, and their support has expanded opportunities for our students to pursue excellence for the greater good. Tonight's presentations reflect the realization of a shared vision, one shaped by Jane Batten, the Ryan family, and the collective efforts of our faculty and students. The work you'll see this evening demonstrates not only academic excellence, but also a deep sense of purpose and responsibility. As we look ahead, the importance of this work continues to grow. The challenges facing our environment and our global society require leaders who are thoughtful, informed, and committed to action. The students we recognize tonight are already demonstrating those qualities. It's an honor to celebrate their achievements and to witness the continued strength of this program. So we thank you for being here and for your support of our students and this important work. Unfortunately, Louis couldn't be with us this evening, but we have a message from him to share with our students and audience. Please enjoy.
Good evening. My name is Louis Ryan, and I'm pleased to add my welcome to all of you at this Environmental Research Symposium, and ultimately Environmental Research Prize. I've been asked to speak to you tonight because my wife and I were involved in the creation of the symposium, and I've been asked to explain why it is that we thought that was a good thing for us to do. First of all, a very simple answer would be that I've been on the Board of Trustees at Virginia Wesleyan for a goodly number of years, and therefore I have a loyalty to the school. I didn't go here as a student, but as a member of the Board of Trustees. I get to see the school, I get to see its development, and I develop an enthusiasm for it. The second reason is because Scott Miller and David Black asked me to, and I don't know how many of you know them very well, but I've never found the energy to say no to those guys. So that would be the second simple reason for my being involved with this. But the more substantive reason for each of those has to do with my wife and I's commitment to two causes above all others. And those two causes are education and the environment. And obviously, this symposium is the intersection of those two interests. So let me just take a second to explain why I'm interested in those two things. Education is probably pretty obvious why that's of interest to me, because I'm speaking to an audience of people who are either involved in education as educators or students or parents of students or otherwise interested in this university. So I don't need to go too deeply. But I'm going to take this opportunity to go a little deeper than that and explain what I view as the primary benefit of education, both to individuals and to our society at large. And that is that a good education may teach you facts, it may teach you skills, and all of those can be important. But what a good education does, one hopes, is to teach you how to think. And what I mean by thinking is learning to think critically, creatively, and holistically. And doing that is really necessary to guarantee the survival and thriving of humanity. And the environment is the perfect place to both learn those skills and to practice them once you've learned them. The complexity of the environment, the interrelationship of very many aspects of the environment, requires anyone who's interested in preserving our environment so that we can survive and thrive, must look at many aspects, because you solve a problem one place and it creates an issue somewhere else. So you need to have a full understanding of every aspect of how an environment works and how, if you attempt to improve it, you need to be mindful of the various ways that it might work and how what your efforts to improve one thing may cause a problem somewhere else. For instance, wind power is a wonderful way to avoid the use of fossil fuels. But when you put wind farms in a flyway for bird species, you may end up killing a lot of rare birds. So you need to think about that. You need to understand that kind of issue and see if there's a way to have it both ways. Another example is electric cars. A good idea? Yes, certainly. But research has shown that the creation of electric cars creates a bigger carbon footprint than the creation of gasoline-powered cars. Now, the minute the cars start driving, the electric car starts regaining that benefit, but it may take 40, 60,000 or more miles before that benefit is regained, and it can be even worse if the electricity is generated through coal power. So these are just a couple of examples of how complex the environment is, how interrelated various parts of the environment are, and why it's essential that people who have an interest in the environment think critically, creatively, and holistically. So this symposium creates a natural opportunity for students and faculty, for that matter, to engage in this kind of thinking and to hopefully do meaningful research work that will add to our knowledge of the issues that we face with our environment, and how we should go about dealing with those issues. So we are very pleased to be involved with this, to have our name associated with it, and we're thrilled to have Virginia Wesleyan University here in the greater Hampton Roads area, bringing fabulous students to work in many areas, but particularly in the environment. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to make these remarks. Thank you.
So, this is our fourth symposium, and for many of you, this might be the first time you've attended this symposium, for our first and second years especially, and certainly for our seniors who didn't attend last year. This move to this venue and this event and the opportunity to celebrate this research serves as a bookend experience to your honors education. Just as you came in as a prospective student, asking questions and having to think at a round table with your peers about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and the VWU environment and guiding principles, the senior class was given the opportunity to try and solve those through projects around. And so the Honors 480 class, both in the fall and the spring, were tasked with these challenges. And I'd like to introduce the four faculty who were the mentors for the Honors 480 class this year. In the fall course, that was Dr. Annika Quick and Professor James Moskowitz. Our spring Honors 480 course mentors were Dr. Kelly Holzer and Dr. Stu Minnis. Thank you all for your help and your mentorship and guidance on these projects this year. They are inspiring indeed. And so from the crop of prospects, then they go to a campus adjudication committee who reviews all the papers, none of which were smaller than 29 pages, I checked. The posters, and looked as well at all the accompanying materials provided by the students, the researchers in those courses. Those projects were adjudicated, and we revived at our 4 finalists, and they were adjudicated, all projects, on the following criteria set forth by Lily Reslink: the potential impact of the project, the addressing of environmental complexities of the project or idea, their strength of evidence, and their ability to communicate that across a wide variety of audiences. So the finalists who were adjudicated by the committee those finalists were recorded and then submitted to a regional professional judges. So it is my honor at this time to announce our judges for this year's symposium: Pam Northam from the Elizabeth River Project, Chris Moore, Virginia Executive Director of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, and Teresa Augustin, Vice President for Education at Norfolk Botanical Gardens. All 3 of our judges come from wonderful collaborative partner organizations from our area. We thank you for everything that you do for our region, and we would also like this time to give you a token of our appreciation. It is actually going to be a preview of what's to come on July 1st, so when we become Batten University. So we've got you some Batten University swag to help promote as our wonderful name change and our new mission begins. And we want to thank you all for providing your insight, inspiration, and everything you do for our region. So we look forward to our collaborations with your organizations. Let's thank our judges one more time for their assistance today. Now it's my honor to introduce our tonight's finalists. Our tonight's finalists are Stephanie Clark, Jasmine Gorney, Tyler Noll, and Lily Reslink. And this year we had 3 awards, and now I went off book this year and added a 4th because I think it's important. But the finalists tonight are competing for four awards. 2 finalists, symposium finalists, will receive $250 awards each. That's $125 cash and $125 donated in their names to a nonprofit environmental organization of their choosing. The third award is the Marlin Award for Sustainability Advocacy. It's an $800 award, $400 in cash, and $400 donated in their name to the nonprofit environmental group of their choosing. And then finally, the Ryan Prize for Excellence in Environmental Research. It's a $1,500 award, $750 in cash, and $750 donated in the finalist's name to the nonprofit environmental group of their choosing. Finalists, you'll be glad to know that because we know so late, your trophies and your checks will be handed to you at the BHC capstone ceremony on May 16th. So you'll get to graduate with cash in hand, which is always a good way to start life. That said, tonight, it is my opportunity now to begin our finalist talks. And so our first finalist is Stephanie Clark. Stephanie is a senior at Virginia Wesleyan with a double major in International Studies and Hispanic Studies. During her time at the university, she has been actively involved in campus life through participation in choir and theater, the awesome performance in Chicago, as well as leadership roles and service roles across multiple organizations. She's been inducted into several honor societies in recognition of her academic achievements. And in addition to that academic work, she has served as a student coordinator for enrollment, currently holds the role of events coordinator for our Student Government Association. She is also the founder and president of the Mosaic Project, and her global interests are reflected in her involvement in Model United Nations and her completion of 3 study abroad experiences. Following graduation, Stephanie will attend Regent University School of Law, where she plans to pursue a career in immigration law, and the organization of her choosing, which has remained secret until now, is the Xerxes Society for Invertebrate Conservation in both DC and the West Coast. So at this time, I'd like you to welcome Stephanie Clark.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. So as he said, my name is Stephanie Clark. This is my honors capstone, Thinking Bee, or Restoring Native Pollinator Habitats at Virginia Wesleyan University. The apple you see before you is not fully pollinated. What that means is that not enough pollen came from the male reproductive part of the plant to the female reproductive part of the plant. This is typically because of a lack of bees. The problem is that we don't see enough transfer of pollen. So when we see this, we see that this is not the difference, this is the norm. When we look closely, we will see that the apple is lopsided. What this means is that it is not fully pollinated. If we were to open it up, we would see maybe 3 to 2 seeds inside, but a fully pollinated apple will have 10 seeds in total, 5 on each side. The quality of the apple is determined by bees, and not just honeybees, but native bees, specifically the 5 native bees that you see right up here. So from top to bottom, those bees are bumblebees, carpenter bees, mason bees, cellophane bees, and sweat bees. We all probably know how important bees are for pollination, but do we fully grasp how important they are? Bees are responsible for 1 out of every 3 bites of food. That's 75 to 80% of all flowering plants. They also are responsible for the reproduction of native plants and necessary plants such as alfalfa and cotton, which fuel our economy, give us clothes, and give us livestock. They help plants to reproduce that are crucial for ecosystems, that help to feed birds, reptiles, and other insects. However, despite their necessity, they are continuing to decline at an alarming rate, impacting crop yield, agricultural productivity, and ecosystems worldwide. And it's not just the honeybee populations, it's the native bees. This means the bees that people don't typically think of, such as the blue, the green, and the black bees. The ones that don't sting, the ones that lick human sweat, the ones that live in the ground, or even lay their eggs in other bees' hives. These are the bees that truly make a difference in our everyday lives. There are over 4,000 bees, native bees, in the United States alone. In our area, the most common native bees are bumblebees, sweat bees, carpenter bees, mason bees, and leafcutter bees. Saving native bees is especially important for humanity because they are specifically adapted to their environment. In other words, this means that they have specialized characteristics that help them to pollinate better than honeybees in some cases. For instance, the bumblebee has a special type of pollination method called sonication, or buzz pollination, in which it will grab a flower with its mandibles and shake it violently, also known as the jackhammer method. Other adaptations to local climates include elongated tongues or even being able to survive in colder climates. Many plants that we consider as staples to our diets need these specialized traits, such as strawberries, potatoes, peppers, and tomatoes. These bees also help their local ecosystems by pollinating plants that are necessary in other animals' diets. There are several, despite their importance, 1 out of 4 bees are at risk of extinction. This has been affecting crop yield and is apparent in our food as seen in the apple at the beginning of the presentation. There are several reasons that bee populations are declining. The main ones are habitat loss, the presence of invasive species, both animal and plant, pesticides, and climate change. When designing this project, it was clear how impacted our native bee populations were because of a lack of resources. This problem exists because of a loss of habitat. According to a study by Oregon State University, habitat loss is the most significant contributor to native bee decline. Habitat loss is a direct result of human activity, such as urbanization, where green spaces are removed and replaced with homes. Likewise, landscapers and homeowners will plant invasive species of plants, like the Bradford pear that you see around campus, which is used to replace the native dogwood, but is actually choking out native plants and taking away nesting habitats and necessary nutrients for our native bees. Furthermore, invasive plants often have invasive larvae or eggs on them, which spread invasive species that take nutrients from bees and are often parasites or invaders in bees' homes, such as the varroa mite. Here is where my project comes in, and it is Thinking Bee. At first, it sounds like a joke, something taken from the film The Bee Movie, but to me, it represents something more. To think bee means to work with the environment instead of against it, just like bees do. So instead of trying to create something entirely new, I focused on restoring what was already here. I noticed some of these issues of loss of habitation at VW immediately, and thus began my project. For instance, our designated green spaces on campus were not doing what they were intended to do. Instead, they were a symbol rather than a statement. Instead of being safe, maintained areas for pollinators or for native plants, the areas in red were taken over by invasive plants. I chose to focus on the pollinator garden, right here, and it was taken over by these invasive plants. I found that it was not fulfilling what it was supposed to do by providing nesting habitats and nutrients for our bees. Instead, the area was taken over by plants such as English ivy, silverberry, and Chinese privet. These plants had spread out and were choking native trees and herbs like mint and taking away crucial habitat for our native bees. After choosing this area to focus on and identifying the invasive plants, I went in with hand tools and removed the invasive plants. My focus at the time was to remove the entire root system so that it would not come back or spread. I also went through and removed some of the invasive vines from native trees so that the bees could have another area to chew through. Afterwards, I separated the invasive material into 2 piles, either to be used for the bee home or to be used as kindling in an upcoming bonfire, which happened at V4. Next, I constructed the bee homes. I arranged the pieces into a house structure made from untreated wood, and at the bottom, sticks were drilled with 2.5 to 9.5 millimeter holes, and then placed offering enough room for carpenter or mason bees to enter. The second layer had a mix of those drilled sticks and then a block of wood that the bees could choose through themselves. Finally, the top layer had leftover sticks and vines for the bees to chew through and also to burrow. Finally, in partnership with the Virginia Zoo and Habitat Heroes, we were able to plant a 5 by 4 foot plot of native pollinator plants to provide food for the bees. When working with this project, I aimed to support the UN Sustainable Goals of 15 life on land, 2 zero hunger, and 11 sustainable cities and communities. By offering native bees a habitat with both nesting sites and food, it supports the life on land goal. It also provides more green spaces in our community that do not have these invasive species, which aligns with Goal 11. Finally, by ensuring that our food continues to reproduce, we can ensure that our communities do not starve, aligning with Goal 2. So what's next for this project, and what further steps can be taken here to ensure that native bees return to VWU and keep our campus thriving? First, the pollinator garden should be continued to be maintained, along with other designated green spaces for further invasive plant removal. Second, more bee homes should be constructed and also managed. This means that they are checked every few years to be able to make sure that there are no mites entering. Third, VWU should try to limit mowing in March, April, and May, and especially in these designated areas. These months are vital for early season bees as they feed off of the dandelions and buttercup flowers. Pesticides should also be eliminated using sustainable methods to rid campus of the pests instead. Finally, this site and the bee homes can be used by other students for future data collection and future projects. They can measure the return rate of our native bees back home. We can also move forward with the Bee City USA to make VWU a bee campus, which will ensure its maintenance for many years. This apple should be our norm, not this one. By making local changes, we can help to ensure that our reality is also never like this one. Through the Thinking Bee Project, we can help save these bees. And for further research and information, please check out my works cited or my full paper. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Stephanie. At this time, I'd like to welcome Jasmine Gorney to the stage. Jasmine. That's from just down the road, Moyock, North Carolina. She's a 3-year all-time ODAC all-academic recipient and a Noyce Scholar. She worked for regionally with the NSF grant, mapping urban heat designations, and spending much time outside in a Southeast Virginia summer. Congratulations. She'll be entering the MAED program here at Batten University this summer to teach math and STEM in our schools. God bless you. And the organization Jasmine has chosen to donate her awards to is the Hampton Roads Blue Green Oasis, part of Keeping Norfolk Greener. So at this point, come forward, Jasmine. Welcome.
Okay, as you just heard, my name is Jasmine Gorney, and I will be presenting my project on thermal inequality in Portsmouth, Virginia. So today I will be talking about heat disparities, the science behind them, what I found about them, and then what we can do. So what are heat disparities? Let's start by looking at these two pictures, both in Portsmouth, Virginia. There's some key differences in these photos. In the top one, we see a lot of asphalt and concrete and very little vegetation with like plants and no trees, whereas in the bottom one, we see trees and yards and shade. Now imagine you're standing in both of these spots on a hot summer day. The top one is going to feel a lot hotter than the bottom one. This is due to a phenomenon known as the urban heat island effect. This is where urban areas get hotter than their rural counterparts. This happens because of two big things. One, impervious surfaces, think concrete, asphalt, pavement, think gray areas. They trap, store, and re-radiate the sun's heat, making the area around them hotter. Whereas vegetation, think green, like plants, trees, they not only trap, store, and re-radiate less heat, but they also cool the air around them through evapotranspiration. Additionally, trees have shade, which cools the air around them too. So urban areas, which have more gray than green, are hotter than rural areas, which have more green than gray. This matters for two big reasons: equity and health. Research shows that heat is not distributed equally. The urban heat island effect disproportionately affects minorities and low-income residents. This can be tied back to the historic practice of redlining, which was a federal practice of disinvested from minority and low-income residents. Additionally, this matters because heat is the leading cause of weather-related deaths in the United States. Also, not everyone is affected by heat the same way. Some people are more vulnerable. For example, the young, elderly, or people with disabilities are all people that are more susceptible to heat. This matters especially because the people, low-income and minority residents, overlap with a lot of people that are more susceptible to heat. So the people that face more heat are also more vulnerable to it. So I wanted to see if this national trend was prevalent in Portsmouth. So 2 summers ago, I worked with the Cool Down P-Town initiative, where we went out in Portsmouth and mapped heat on a July day. And I took that data as well as demographic data from the census on race and income, as well as historic redlining data. And I created 4 maps to do a comparative spatial analysis to see if this trend is to in Portsmouth. Additionally, I wanted to take this beyond seeing where heat was hot and look also where residents were vulnerable. So I took 7 socioeconomic and health-related factors, such as access to health insurance or housing insecurity or transportation, and I scaled these and I made a heat vulnerability index where 0 is the least vulnerable and 7 is the most vulnerable. So we can use this map to see where people are most susceptible to heat. So these are the maps I talk about. I have a heat map, a redlining map, a race map, and an income map. And you can see on these what I like to call hot zones. This area where they line up. And you can also see how the D grade, which is the most historically disinvested area and historically run how that also lines up with heat. So the visual spatial analysis confirms the global trend that minority and low-income residents are disproportionately faced with the urban heat island effect that can be tied back to redlining. Additionally, I wanted to see how this affected the residents. So I took my data from the vulnerability index, as well as averaged data for a census tract, and I created the heat burden matrix, which splits Portsmouth up into 4 zones, which is high heat, high vulnerability, high heat, low vulnerability, low heat, high vulnerability, and low heat, low vulnerability. And this is especially important because different techniques used to deal with the effects of urban heat islands is important for the different categories we have. And so what I wanted to do against urban heat islands, I created a pamphlet. I called the Portsmouth Heat Resilience Toolkit. That is an accessible way for Portsmouth residents to figure out what urban heat islands are, who is affected, where they're affected, and how they can protect themselves. It's designed to be printed and distributed at community centers, such as churches or libraries, so Portsmouth residents have direct access to this information. Additionally, on the pamphlet, on the back, there are things about what to do about urban heat islands, and it's important to understand the distinction between the two because that they matter in where we implement these. So first is adaptation. These are short-term effects that focus more on keeping residents safe from urban heat islands. The pamphlet suggests creating heat sanctuaries, which are cooling centers that focus on the health of the residents. This technique is especially important in the high heat, high vulnerability, especially with the summer coming. We want to keep people healthy, safe, and alive. So this is important in that section. Additionally, we have mitigation, which are longer-term techniques that fight back directly against urban heat islands. These affect the environment. My pamphlet suggests bringing in green in any way that's possible. So, for example, tree plantings or even vertical gardens, or stop trapping the heat, so painting your roofs white. These techniques will be more effective in places where immediate health impacts aren't as great. So, for example, the high heat, low vulnerability group, or the low heat, high vulnerability, where we have time to fight back. So, in conclusion, there are 2 big things I want you to take away from my project. The first is that the national trend of heat disparities where minority and low-income residents face more heat is true in Portsmouth, and it can be tied back to the historical practice of redlining. And then 2, While big green initiatives of planting trees and getting green places are important and are helpful, it's important to have community-driven, accessible ways for residents to fight back against urban heat islands, for things to be sustainable, and to avoid gentrification. Additionally, this is bigger than Portsmouth. This also relates to the UN SDGs of reduced inequalities, climate action, sustainable cities, and good health. If there's one thing I leave you thinking about with my presentation, it is that thermal safety is a right and not a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Our next speaker is Tyler Noll. Tyler is from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. So I guess let's give a round of applause for Mechanicsburg. He studied abroad 3 different times while in VWU, once in Morocco, once in Chile, and once in New Zealand, and traveled to over a dozen other countries in the meantime. He's one of our distinguished Virginia Wesleyan University sustainability leaders. And after graduation, Tyler will go to work with the Global Leadership Adventures as a leadership mentor for public health student volunteers in the Dominican Republic. The organization for which Tyler has chosen to donate his award is Clean Virginia Waterways. So we encourage you to check out that organization as well. It's one of our partners in the area. This time, I'd like to welcome Tyler Noll.
Okay, a few months ago, I was at a campus event, holding a plate full of food, a compostable fork, and a cup. I used them all for maybe 10 minutes, ate most of my food, and then I threw it all away into the already full trash can. Not because I didn't care, but because there wasn't a real system in place for me to make a better choice. Now, I'm sure many of you have seen this same site, maybe even tonight, and felt the same way that I did as you placed your plate on top of all the others. Now, we talk a lot about sustainability. It's everywhere, classrooms, policies, mission statements. But the truth is, sustainability isn't just an idea. It's a system. And right now, one of the most broken systems we have is how we deal with food waste. Globally, the food system produces over 25% of greenhouse gas emissions. And here's the shocking part. Over half of landfill waste is compostable material, food waste that could have been composted. And when that waste sits in a landfill, it decomposes, producing 58% of methane from landfills. Methane is a greenhouse gas over 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So when we throw away food, we're not just wasting resources, we're accelerating climate change. Beyond emissions, landfills present more environmental and social challenges. They produce leachate, they create habitat fragmentation, and they often impose negative impacts on nearby communities, including reduced property values and exposure to pollutants. Given that global waste generation is expected to increase significantly in the coming decades, continuing to rely on landfilling is not a sustainable path forward. So what is? Now, the solution isn't complicated. Composting is simply the controlled decomposition of organic matter. Instead of producing methane, it produces compost, or humus, a stable, nutrient-rich material that can improve soil health, enhance plant growth, and reduce the need for chemical fertilizers. So why compost? What are the benefits? And the answer to that question breaks down into 3 areas: economic, social, and environmental. Economically, new composting facilities create jobs. In Maryland, just a state over, compost facilities sustain twice as many jobs per ton of waste compared to the alternatives of landfilling and incineration. Composting also reduces the long-term costs associated with landfills, things like pollution, groundwater contamination, and declining property values. Globally, reducing methane emissions is going to help lower the broader economic costs of climate change. Socially, composting has visible local benefits. It can be used to improve campus landscapes, support local agriculture, and serve as an educational tool in our classrooms. This is especially important on college campuses because it connects sustainability to students' everyday life. And environmentally, the benefits are clear and direct. Composting reduces waste, improves soil health, and significantly lowers methane emissions. It turns a linear system of consume and discard into a circular one. So the next question is, why focus on college campuses? And that's because campuses are uniquely suited for this kind of change. They have controlled food systems, high volumes of food waste, and populations that are both educated and adaptable. But most importantly, campuses shape behavior. What students learn here doesn't just stay here, it goes with them. So I developed a solution, a comprehensive composting framework designed for Virginia Wesleyan University, but adaptable to campuses all over the world. I analyzed case studies and research literature on what actually worked for compost programs at similar-sized universities. So here's my framework. I begin with the executive vision. This is the overall aim of the framework and the program. Then I give suggestions, actions that we need to take on this campus. And at the core of these suggestions are 3 pillars. The first is accessibility. If composting isn't convenient, it won't happen. So bins must be clearly placed in areas where food waste happens, like in dining halls. The second pillar is education and awareness. One of the biggest failures in composting programs is contamination. So education has to be built into orientation, signage, and even class coursework. Then the third pillar is culture and engagement. For long-term success, composting has to become part of campus culture. There's student involvement, dorm competitions, and leadership opportunities. Next, my framework gives the proposals for use, and this is the fun part. This is imagining what can specifically relate to college campuses. Things like classroom laboratories, campus gardens, donations to local farms, soil improvement on campus, and even student research projects. Finally, my framework gives an implementation plan and timetable. This is how to actually implement everything. So the framework is going to follow a 3-phase implementation plan. The pilot phase, the first 6 months. This involves staff training, student workshops, signage, and bin placement. Then the expansion phase. This is the next year. This is increased social media presence, correcting the original bin placement, and recruiting student ambassadors. Finally, the full integration phase at the 2 to 3 year mark, where composting intertwines with campus culture and community. We're going to see things like student-run campus gardens and the compost being used in the curriculum. This structure is going to ensure the program is not just introduced, but sustained. And at Virginia Wesleyan University, this framework is actually feasible. We're partnering with a local industrial composting company, Tidewater Compost. And with their Give Back program, VWU will receive 1 cubic yard of compost per semester. The possibilities with this are endless. This partnership is going to allow for scaling the program in a meaningful way, while also tracking environmental impact through real data. This is critical because smaller student-run systems unfortunately can't handle the volume or complexity of campus waste. Okay, this isn't some mystical green future. It's real, and other universities like us are showing that. Here's Lawrence University in Appleton, Wisconsin, a small private liberal arts college with 1,500 students. This is the plot of the land where their students began applying compost in 2005, with a vision much like the one I'm sharing with you today. Here is that same plot 15 years later. The university now boasts an impressive project called SLUG, Sustainable Lawrence University Gardens, a student-run project consisting of a honeybee apiary, a perennial fruit tree orchard, and a 1/4-acre annual garden. Now, this isn't the only example. Creighton University in Nebraska, their team of 77 students in their compost initiative transforms 8,000 pounds of waste into soil every month. Knox College in Illinois has 1,100 students. Those of them who take their urban agriculture class spend per week 1 day in the classroom and 1 on the Knox farm, a living laboratory, learning hands-on about composting and regenerative agriculture. DePaul University's ULEM campus farm is fueled by campus compost. They take 85% of their crop yield and sell it back to their dining hall, saving the university money, and then students get to eat potatoes they grew with their own hands. Their student body is just under 2,000. This is the vision that I have for VWU that I want you to believe in, because it is possible with the comprehensive framework I've created. Looking ahead, the next steps are clear. Begin implementation. Get this framework into the hands of the university and start phase 1. Then encourage leadership. Find faculty and student volunteers to adopt my vision. I would be thrilled to see our Marlins Go Green Club carry on this vision after I graduate. Then finally, share this model with other universities. Share our data, share our success. Because the goal isn't just to build a composting program, it's to create a sustainable system that others can replicate. And then this work also connects to something larger. It aligns directly with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, specifically Goal 11 and 12. So while this project starts on a single campus, it contributes to a global effort. And that brings me back to where I started. Standing there, throwing away a compostable plate and half-finished meal. That moment wasn't just frustrating, it was revealing. It showed me that sustainability isn't about intention, it's about infrastructure. We can't expect people to make sustainable choices if the system doesn't support them. But when it does, real change happens. Because sustainability isn't about sacrifice, it's about redesign. Rethinking systems so that what we do every day naturally leads to better outcomes. If we can do that on this campus, we're not just reducing emissions, we're shaping a generation that understands how to live differently, sustainably, and that might be the most powerful outcome of all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
I can't steal that from you.
Oh, we
You need
pass it
that.
off. Our final speaker tonight is Lily Reslink. You might know her better as the editor of the Marlin Chronicle. Studied abroad in South Korea and is a student coordinator for campus health and safety as well. And Lily is an academically rigorous and professionally driven hippie child trying to do good in the world with the power of media and communication. She's a journalist, student, and environmental communicator. Born in Erie, Pennsylvania, Lily has trudged and stumbled through 21 years of her life to her senior year at Virginia Wesleyan University. Lily provided this bio, not me. As a researcher of overconsumption and individualistic thinking, she sees building stronger communities as the best way forward to the planet. After graduation, Lily has accepted a journalism internship at the Chautauqua Institute, where she will be a beat reporter for the Chautauquan Daily. And the organization to which Lily has offered to donate her prize money to is Keep Norfolk Beautiful, which she says is an amazing organization, and she couldn't be more right. All right, welcome to the podium, Lily Reslink.
I gave you a lot to work with. I'm sorry about that. My name is Lily Reslink, and I would like to start you all off with a hot take. Usable items are not trash. This sounds like sound logic, but the heaps of usable items that end up in dumpsters each year at move out prove that this sound logic is not something we all follow, which is what motivated my project. Break the shopping hall to dumpster cycle, reducing waste at move out through the power of campus community. You guys can take a minute to soak this in. This list barely scrapes the surface of items wasted at move out each year, only for people to load up their carts again when they move in. Unfortunately, at move out, the most convenient option for unwanted items is tossing them in dumpsters. And yes, saving time is nice, but choosing convenience over extra coordination leads to wasteful habits. This cycle at move out and move in ties to a broader culture that reinforces waste and replace habits. But there's a clearer point of intervention here. Keeping items in use prevents both waste and new purchases, which is something that everyone can celebrate except maybe the Walmart, IKEA, and Target down the road, but they'll be okay. I wanted to break this cycle on campus, but I knew it would take more than spreading awareness to do that, because sustainable changes happen with better systems. A sustainable system in this case means one that has community participation to continue and minimizes environmental harm. To accomplish this on campus, I created a system built on community care. I founded Marlin Marketplace in fall 2025 to promote sustainable consumption practices on campus and improve free resources on campus. It is now institutionally recognized through official integration into the Athenaeum offices here. This May, 2026, Marlin Marketplace will launch a new move-out system that repositions a high-waste scenario into a cycle of free resources. This strengthens our community by giving everyone the chance to both participate in and benefit from it. Marlin Marketplace redirects unwanted items to better places than those industrial-sized dumpsters that we add every year for campus move-out. Unwanted items have a couple places that they can go. So first is Marlin Marketplace's closet inventory that's currently in Clark Hall. Number 2 is sharing it with campus and community partners. This includes global engagement for international students, student success for their care closet, as well as off-campus partners such as the Samaritan House, who will be coming to pick up additional items on the Friday after move-out. The third option is we received permission from facilities management to store items over the summer, which students will have access to again in fall move-out, or in fall move-in. Now, this does require some work, and I certainly cannot do it all by myself. So I am very lucky to have a core team of 4 students for Marlin Marketplace. Last semester, I secured paid positions for Marlin Marketplace. Director of Civic Engagement, Erin Shadow, worked with me to dedicate work-study positions in her office to Marlin Marketplace. So the position that now serves as the logistics assistant will be reserved for head coordinator forever after my graduation. In this semester, we also added 2 Athenaeum interns as inventory managers. So there are official ways to get involved with Marlin Marketplace. But for move out, we need even more community power. So students who can help are joining a GroupMe group chat to sign up for shifts and roles of their choice during the move out period. And helpers get first dibs on all donated items. So that has been helpful in getting people to join. In this system, students have 2 options to donate. The first option is the physical bins. There are 7 zones around campus. There are 3 currently active, and then more will open near residential halls for move-out periods. The second option is an innovative design designed to accommodate a large influx of items with fewer resources. It is a direct digital exchange. So we launched a photo folder, a Google Photos folder where students can upload items, and anyone can claim those items. Organizing a peer-to-peer exchange, and all Marlin Marketplace has to do is supervise the posts and collect unclaimed items at the end of the move-out period. So this program has had an extensive impact on campus, and it continues to grow. Marlin Marketplace's impact has began with communication. While it emerged with item swap programming, its presence was designed to lead a greater shift. So Marlin Marketplace has started conversations about problems associated with wastefulness, as well as the benefits of item circulation, such as donation and peer-to-peer exchange. But we do more than educate, because participation from our community is the true difference that I want the program to make. To get participation, Marlin Marketplace spreads procedural information through university newsletters, mass emails, promotion in residence halls, flyers around campus, social media, word of mouth. We've been at conferences, we host pop-ups, we host weekly campus programming, and we've even been in the press. Communication is more than half the battle. And for the future, I'm also leaving behind a Marlin Marketplace guidebook and move-out manual, which will be updated with impact reports. Now, something to consider at this point is we're all still here. Move-out has not happened yet, so we don't have the stats quite yet. But comparable university programs report saving tons of waste and thousands of dollars. To track our move-out, we've set up a photo system to track donations and a document to track our summer storage inventory. These will help improve our tracking system moving forward for the year-round functions of Marlin Marketplace. And with compensated positions, Marlin Marketplace's future is secured on campus to continue improving. Marlin Marketplace and its new move-out system makes our university a model of community item circulation, which is part of a necessary global effort to reduce those waste and replace cycles. This ties to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, namely 12 and 11. 12, responsible consumption. Responsible consumption and production has 100-page reports on this, but really, it's just buy less and waste less. 11, sustainable cities and communities tie to the subcategories of the goal: waste management and better participation from community members in key decisions for that community, which is something that Marlin Marketplace strives to implement on a campus level. And here are some numbers for you. A 2024 report from the United Nations Environment Program said material use has increased more than 3 times in the last 50 years. The UNEP reported if the uptick in material use and waste doesn't change, resource use could increase 60% from 2020 to 2060. Production and consumption are linked to environmental costs, such as CO2 emissions, water use, and of course, waste generation. But item circulation prevents waste at both the consumption and production processes. According to the World Economic Forum, circular economy models could reduce CO2 emissions by 39% by 2032. Now, it's important to remember that every item saved does make a difference, even when looking at this through such a large scale. And it can be overwhelming to try to save everything, but the focus is progress, not perfection. It's hard to think about the problem of waste. Who could have benefited from wasted items? How much stuff went to landfills for no reason? This relates to experiences of environmental anxiety and societal defeatism that many people share, but coping can be actionable. You don't have to just sit with it. For me, Marlin Marketplace is a product of grief turned into empowerment. In every move out before this, I felt discouraged by the waste. My own personal efforts to save and redirect items hardly made a dent in what we lost to the dumpsters. But it's not just me anymore. I've got a team, I've got a lot of documents, and I've got a really big spreadsheet. And apparently that's what you need to get things done around here. Marlin Marketplace took a big problem and created a system to address it that people can get directly involved with. And that includes you. There are plenty of ways to get involved with Marlin Marketplace. First of all, we have an active social media presence on Instagram. We host programming around campus. And we are also welcoming volunteers to become part of this new move-out system. And all QR codes and everything will be at the end, so don't worry if you can't get it now. Now, to say I started Marlin Marketplace out of a love for free stuff would be not inaccurate, but oversimplified. Systems that give people the chance to take what they need and share what they don't are mutually beneficial and resource efficient. Marlin Marketplace is just one example from here on campus, but no matter where, I ask all of you to work toward a world where communities help meet each other's needs with much fewer dumpster trips and shopping hauls required. Thank you all for listening, and thank you to everyone who made this possible, which is way more than can fit on this slide, but thank you all.
Thank you, Lily. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Dr. Scott Miller and the president and the chair of our board of trustees, Nancy DeFord, to the stage. We'll over here to our left, your right, audience. And it is my honor now to announce the winners, these 4 finalist awards. But because I like to go off script, you all had a note card earlier this evening, and hopefully as you look through the poster session, you took down notes and you nominated a poster of your favorite choice. And I am great to know, straight from the accounting, that the winner of the People's Choice Award for Best Poster is Elena Lichtenwallner for improving neurodiversity on the Virginia Wesleyan University campus. Elena, you will also have cash at graduation, so which will make your trip back to Pennsylvania, which there must be something going on in Pennsylvania with so many finalists there. Good. I'd like to start with our finalist awards, the two finalists, Ryan finalist awards, and we'll announce them one at a time. Our first Ryan Symposium finalist and the winner of a $250 cash award is Stephanie Clark. Our second Ryan Symposium finalist award goes to Jasmine Gorney. The winner for the first inaugural award for the Marlin Award for Sustainability Advocacy in 2026 is Lily Reslink. This makes suspense difficult. But this year's award for Ryan Environmental Prize for Excellence in Research goes to Tyler Noll. At this time, I'd like to remind everyone, it does take a community and not a single person can do it alone. And this event is the same. I want a special thanks to the President's Office, especially Shelley Hunter and Alexis Miller for helping us set everything up and working with our Sodexo catering staff, Heather Beatty, Trey Delpo and the Good Center staff for getting us situated in here and allowing us to take over the lobby. And Dr. Jill Sturts, Kaylee Lukowski, and Elaine Lichtenwellner, my three best friends who helped do everything in the BHC office this year, would not have gone as well without your care and attention to detail and all your hard work that you do. So I want to thank you all for everything you've done this year. So as the Ryan Symposium draws to a close, we look forward to the contributions that many of you will continue to make for the community. We will be wishing au revoir and so long and farewell and until see you later to our soon-to-be graduates at the capstone ceremony the day right before baccalaureate on May 16th. And in the meantime, you can see other BHC alumni who chose to join us this evening. Thank you. And a big hand to the faculty and staff who have helped us all at the Batten Honors College this year. And we wish you the best of luck and have a good evening.